Oh, hey, good morning, everybody. You're watching Rebel Roundup, but it is Wednesday, which means it is a very special Rebel Roundup. We call it Western Wednesdays, where we convene the Buffalo panel. I am your host, Sheila Gunn Reid. On Wednesdays, my co-host always is my very best friend and acclaimed LGBTQ plus children's author, Lise Merle from Regina, Saskatchewan. Lise, how's it going?
Well, Sheila Gunn Reid, this continues to be the best day of my life. Okay, I've had many in a row now, which is absolutely incredible. I don't know if now is the time we want to give everybody a buck update, but it is so burning and
We'll do it
excellent.
towards the end. We'll do it
Okay,
towards the end
okay,
because
okay.
I know one of our guests, his time is short. So
Yes,
we'll
yes, yes. But in we'll catch up. We'll catch up on this in a little bit. But ooh, I'm doing great, Sheila Gunn Reid. I couldn't be better.
You know what? If I were any better, I'd be twins. So, let's tell everybody how they can get involved, and then we'll bring our panelists on. So, if you're watching us on Rumble, thank you for supporting a great free speech platform. If you want to get involved in the show, let's democratize it. You have your say, you give us some money. How's that? So, you can leave a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat over there. If you want to do the same over on YouTube, it's called a super chat and we will read them on air. And if you are unable to catch the live version of the show and you want to leave us a comment anyway, you can leave us a paid comment called a super thanks. So those are the rules. Let's bring in our panelists because one of our panelists, their time is short. The other one is going to go the full pull with us, the full hour. So we've got convoy lawyer, civil rights litigator, Keith Wilson on the show with us today. And we've got Wyatt Claypool, whose name I said wrong 2 weeks ago, and it still haunts me. Wyatt Claypool. He's an independent journalist, and he also works for the One BC Caucus. So thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show. I want to get something out of the way right away. And that is something that we were talking about before we went live on air. And because we have Wyatt with us and he works for the One BC Caucus, and we've got Keith Wilson, who is a very careful person who pays attention to these sorts of things, and of course his law background, it's DRIPA in BC. So a lot of people are mistakenly, I think, Keith will walk us through this, attributing the Cowichan land claim craziness, where all of a sudden everybody's land titles are in jeopardy after an Indigenous land claim. They're attributing it to DRIPA, which is the BC version of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. That means that everything has to be considered through an Indigenous lens and potentially Indigenous land claims. But Keith corrects us by saying that's not what happened. The two things are unrelated in the Cowichan case. So please walk us through this.
Yeah, I mean, BC's in trouble.
Yeah.
First we have the Cowichan decision that came out in August that says if you own land, if you own a business, if you own a home, and it's subject to a land claim from a First Nations, and they're able to establish Aboriginal title, that Aboriginal title trumps your freehold title or your fee simple title granted by the BC Crown. And in fact, the court said in Cowichan, remarkably, shockingly, that your title is invalid in the face of the Aboriginal title. And because of all of British Columbia, essentially less 5%, primarily on the southern portion of Vancouver Island, is subject to outstanding land claims. I put up a website link in one of my tweets where you can go to the BC Treaty Commissioners and pick your land, and you'll see that Vancouver's actually got 5 or 6 overlapping land claims. So that decision in Cowichan is a byproduct of the 1973 Calder decision that I studied back in law school over 30 years ago, which led to another Supreme Court of Canada decision and another Supreme Court of Canada and another Supreme Court of Canada decision overlaid with Section 35 of the Constitution that establishes charter rights. The judge in Cowichan added them all together and said equals Aboriginal title trumps fee simple title. Did not rely on UNDRIP or DRIPA. In 2020, the federal government through Bill C-15 and the BC government through some bill decided to adopt the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Aboriginal peoples, Indigenous peoples, and make it law. And I actually have been retweeting my tweets from 2020 because I predicted what's happened, which is last week, the Court of Appeal of BC released a decision applying DRIPA and UNDRIP and said mining claims invalid, essentially, because First Nations have veto. And the problem with UNDRIP is that I think it's clause 32, if I'm not mistaken, gives First Nations communities a veto on any land uses or resource development in their area. British Columbia applied that UNDRIP and made it the law of the province and made it the paramount law of the province, which now means any mining claim that didn't go through it and comply with DRIPA is invalid, and that's what their Court of Appeal ruled. So they're both huge problems.
No.
One's easy to fix, which is the BC legislature can repeal DRIPA, and that will make it easier for resource development and undo the effect of Friday's Court of Appeal decision. But it will not touch the Cowichan problem. The only way that can be fixed, as far as I've been able to figure out, is one of three ways. If you own land in BC, move, get out of the province while you still can. The other option is for Section 35 of the Constitution Act to be amended to reduce Aboriginal rights. I don't see that happening. And the third option is for the BC government to enter into land claim settlements, which will be of billions, if not trillions of dollars that will have to be paid for by the taxpayers of BC. So
Wyatt Claypool, is the NDP going to do that, or what is going to happen?
Are they going to do anything?
Yeah.
Well, the One BC party is the only one that actually wants to push to actually make changes to Section 35. I would agree with Keith that that would be a very difficult thing to do, but someone has to start advocating for it to normalize what is a very common sense change, because obviously it's screwed up so much in Canada, including for First Nations people, to have Section 35 in there and effectively acting as if there is a collectivist nation living within Canada that doesn't interact with Canadian law like everyone else does. And this is also why there's so much poverty for First Nations people, is it treats them like a collective entity. The one thing I did want to talk about when it comes to the Cowichan decision, when it comes to UNDRIP and DRIPA, they didn't specifically reference DRIPA in the decision. And you are right that it actually doesn't have anything specifically to do with DRIPA. It actually might have more to do with UNDRIP itself, because in the decision, the judge referenced Section 8.1 of the Interpretations Act, which says that UNDRIP, not even DRIPA, but UNDRIP has interpretation force over everything else, that you effectively should always read that above everything else that's done in any court case. That simply, like, Indigenous rights, Indigenous everything is always going to have a higher value, rather than saying two competing claims and which one has more legitimacy. The Interpretations Act says the Indigenous claim always has more legitimacy.
That's crazy. It's like Canadian sovereignty just doesn't exist in British Columbia anymore.
No.
It's wild. Keith, before we move on, I just want to talk about the little thing that you challenged separatist hero Thomas Lukaszuk to do with you. For those people who don't know, Thomas Lukaszuk is a former Alberta cabinet minister from the Progressive Conservative days. He's one of the reasons the Progressive Conservative Party actually doesn't exist here anymore, and that's because they were liberals, and he was a big part of that shift. And now he's the leader of the Stay in Canada movement, or at least he seems to think he's the leader of the Stay in Canada movement here as separatism is rising. And he accidentally, I think, because he's not all that bright, brought forward a petition that would result in a separatist referendum question. And I still think he doesn't quite get it. Maybe he does, but you challenged him to a debate. Tell us about this.
Well, I mean, he advocates that Albertans should stay in Canada, and I've never heard him lay out the reasons why. And if there's a case to be made as to why my kids and your kids will have a better future as Albertans staying in Canada, I want to hear the arguments, because I don't see them at all. And So I think it would be beneficial for the public, for everyone, for him to have that opportunity to explain it, and me to explain why I think my kids would be far better off and have a far more prosperous and free future if Alberta were to become independent. We'll see if he takes up the offer. I've proposed that it be done on the Real Jesperson's Real Talk Jesperson show that Lukasik's been on, the Premier's been on. So I'm trying to offer him safe territory, and we'll see what he does.
He's quite something. I don't know what the argument could be outside of sentimentality, because the rest is really, when you think about it, more of the same work that we're already doing, but just to our benefit. You know, like, we're not scared of hard work. I think we can handle some paperwork. And so I don't know what the argument would be outside of sentimentality.
Well, let's be very clear here as well, is that Thomas Lukasik is running an Alberta NDP front group that is taking in data for the Alberta NDP.
Yes.
He knows that none of this is actually going to turn into anything real. If a referendum goes forward, the question would be so wonky that obviously the stay side would win. It doesn't really, you know, I'm not even exactly pro-independence or anti-independence, but that's just my neutral view, that even if that question went forward, it would obviously just win just simply based on the phrasing. But again, he doesn't even care about that. He just wants hundreds of thousands of pieces of data that he can basically like endorse the NDP with, saying, oh, the UCP is too pro-separatist. That's why you have to go vote for the socialists, because apparently they're super patriotic, even though they dislike all the values that Alberta and Canada are based on.
Let's move ahead. House of Commons yesterday, the Conservatives quite cleverly put forward a motion calling on the Liberals to support a pipeline based on the exact language of their own MOU with Alberta. And I think everybody who watches the show knows that I was absolutely critical of that MOU from the very beginning. I thought that we were giving away a lot for nothing but magic beans in the end. And as it turns out, the Liberals were duplicitous snakes the way they always are, because they couldn't support the thing in the House of Commons that used their own language. And I think we have a clip here. Maybe let's show the clip of the Liberals arguing against the Liberals on their own pipeline MOU. Quite something.
Honourable Member for Skeena, Bulkley Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the motion on the floor today, that the House support the construction of one or more pipelines enabling the export of at least 1 million barrels a day of low-emission Alberta bitumen from a strategic deepwater port on the BC coast to reach Asian markets, including through an appropriate adjustment to the Oil Tanker Moratorium Act, while respecting the duty to consult Indigenous peoples. Mr. Speaker, this is the Liberals' wording, word for word, out of the MOU. So having the Liberals oppose and debate this, their own motion, their own wording, is confusing. And this is why we're trying to put this motion on the floor today, because Canadians deserve an answer, yes or no. In BC, the Liberal Party will tell BCers that there will be no pipeline built. But in Alberta, those same Liberals will say that, yes, a pipeline will be built. Which is it? This is the first opportunity for the Liberals to tell the truth on their intentions to build Canada strong, to turn us into an energy superpower, to turn us into the best performing country in the G7. But what we're watching is Liberals argue with Liberals. Liberals are arguing their own climate action plan. In fact, ministers are resigning because they're saying that Liberals are walking away from their own climate action plan and their commitments to the Paris Accord. It wasn't too long ago where the Liberals were condemning everybody that didn't support a carbon tax or didn't support a climate action plan. And now Liberals are condemning Liberals for not supporting their own climate action plan. The Conservatives have been trying to help the Liberals turn Canada into an energy superpower. We wouldn't have agreed on using emergency powers like the Prime Minister promised. I think that's going too far. You remember the emergency powers? They're the ones that took convoy truckers and threw them into jail and froze their bank accounts. The courts found it unconstitutional. Couldn't have agreed to that. But the Liberals claimed they needed superpowers to get pipelines built, so they brought in Bill C-5, Building Canada. And it got passed by this House of Commons. They knew full well they didn't need Bill C-5. They had all the powers already. But this is typical of what this government has been doing.
I think this is
They
good. This goes on for 10 minutes.
Promise.
But again, this is why I was critical of Bill C-5. It creates a bureaucracy out of nothing to do things that the government is already supposed to do. And it all of a sudden makes energy projects even more political. But the Conservatives voted for it too. I don't understand why the Conservatives wasted political capital on Bill C-5, because it, at this point, puts pipeline projects in the Prime Minister's office instead of undertaking independent reviews, because here we are. I'll go ahead, Wyatt.
Yeah, well, why I think the Conservatives voted for Bill C-5 was more so for a calculated political reason, that Carney is going to, if he doesn't get Bill C-5 passed, he's going to sit there and say, see, I can't get anything done because the Conservatives won't go along with it. And so the Conservatives, the entire way along with Bill C-5, kept pointing out, you guys can do this stuff anyways. The Bloc and the NDP weren't going to vote for it for like their own environmental and Quebec reasons. And so the Conservatives were like, okay, well, here's the rope. Go hang yourself with it because you're going to just prove you're not going to get anything done. And I think that's effectively what they've done. It's like how I think Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has almost been allowing Mark Carney to play himself by going along and signing his MOU. And then within a couple of weeks, he's already proven the whole thing was fake. And so it's been a big win for Danielle Smith. She was willing to be as optimistic as possible. And the only reason that this isn't working out is because of Mark Carney and the Liberals. And just another thing on this as well is that I was genuinely shocked when the Liberals voted against their own MOU, because I thought they were going to be smart enough to know it's a motion. They're complaining, oh my goodness, but it's missing language from the MOU. Why don't you just throw the entire MOU in as a bill or a motion? I'm like, no. You have to vote on the idea. Should a pipeline be made? That's all we want to know from you guys. Do you believe in a pipeline being built? And they couldn't organize their own people to do that, which probably demonstrates the Liberal Party is not as unified as you think.
No. Keith, go ahead. I'm sure you're itching to say something.
Well, I mean, all of this illustrates how broken Canada is.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have investment decisions restricted from others in our country and outside of our country who want to invest in creating jobs here for our communities. We shouldn't be putting ridiculous barriers in front of them with nonsensical gender screening requirements for project as is required under the Impact Assessment Act, also known as Bill C-69. All of these things are just making it harder for Alberta or Canada to prosper and for Alberta to prosper. And it's ridiculous. And I am so tired of the games in the House of Commons. I really, the couple times I've went into question period in the public gallery over the years, I literally felt nauseated. It's just such a theater. And why it annoys me so much is they're dealing with people's lives.
Yep.
They're dealing with their future. They're dealing with their ability to live their best life and achieve their potential. And all of this is just games. It's demonstrating it in spades. We need to understand that the Bloc Québécois comes out and mocks Alberta again yesterday and says all of our fossil fuels should be in the ground as they're receiving propane deliveries into their rural communities and heating their homes and they're running their businesses off of our natural gas and our fuel. So I think Canada is a failed experiment. I think we're too culturally divided province to province. And I think a more proper, sensible structure for this part of the planet Earth is for provinces to be countries.
Well, in the new in the new
country.
in the new country, we're not going to do this kind of thing in our in our halls of government, Keith, so that
Well,
we
the
can
thing
look
is, we'd have
forward to.
negotiating pull, right? It's just like with BC, with EB saying, you know, no pipeline, you cannot ship your goods through our province. And you've heard me say this before. Well, then fine. If we're an independent country, we can say no problem, sir.
Right.
We will turn off the pipeline, and Vancouver will be your airport shutting down. Your cars are not moving because you will be out of fuel in 4 days. And besides that, you've got $17 billion worth of goods, agricultural products, stuff from the orchards, fruits, wines, the metals, the forestry, the pulp and paper, that all, and the intermodal, the containers that come in from China and Asia, all have to come through Alberta. So if our goods can't go through your province, you know, your region, then you're not coming through ours. Quebec, the same thing. They're doing all these things to harm Alberta. Well, we have no ability to negotiate with them. Ontario and Quebec don't care what we think, and why should they? There's nothing we can do to strengthen our position in our relationship with them. They can ignore us without consequence. That's why I believe Canada is a failed experiment. The structure's wrong. Everyone will be better off because there'll be an equalization of the balance of power to achieve fairness, force compromise as between the regions, and the provinces should become countries. That's my view.
Honestly, the most frustrating thing about all this is that people in Quebec, people in Ontario, people in British Columbia literally approve of building pipelines. The thing is that everyone's basically being held hostage by their own provincial government,
Right.
not willing to do the things that they want. And that's the funny thing. It's almost like it's not even as much of a cultural difference. It's more of just a political, there's some provinces that are politically captured, and there are some provinces that are not. You know, Alberta, Saskatchewan are not politically captured. In British Columbia and Quebec, based on just the way that the electoral sort of system has shaken out. It's the same, you know, voting system, but in terms of just the party setup and the issues that they can get voters to think are the most important when it comes to election time, they can basically say, I'm going to give you 2 out of the 10 things you want, and I'm going to prevent you from getting 8 of the other 10 things that you want, because I made the entire election about these 2 things that you maybe wanted, rather than those other things that you should probably also be focusing on. And I think there's just been, frankly, a very bad political education that's taken place in Canada, where people don't understand really how their own systems work. It goes almost to anti-Americanism. Because we're not American, that means we're good. It's like, okay, well, at the end of the day, you actually want a functioning country. But that's a rabbit hole to go down later. But you know, tons of people just vote for whatever seems like the non-American option, even though we're not in the U.S.
We've got a clip of Premier Smith, who still remains bizarrely optimistic. I think this clip is from before yesterday's vote on the MOU, and it is with the aforementioned Ryan Jesperson, where she, you know, talks about how it was a successful months-long negotiation with the federal government, but then yesterday's vote in the House of Commons determined that to be untrue. Let's watch it.
The notwithstanding clause on 2 separate occasions, technically 4 times within 3 weeks. And amid it all, you're smiling and shaking hands with and signing a document in partnership with Ottawa, and people are trying to wrap their minds around it. I mean, I think that qualifies as one of the wildest times in Alberta's history.
You know, you always have people who are going to agree with things that you do and people who are going to disagree. But I think people wanted us to work with the federal government. That was one of the mandates that I got after there was that historic change at the federal level. I think people were anticipating it was going to be a CPC government. There were some frustrations that it didn't happen. And that's what I think caused that independence sentiment to boil over. And that's what I told the Prime Minister. I said, I think that your predecessor created this movement, but you and I can end it if we come to an agreement to develop our resources, get rid of these bad laws, and get us back on a track again. Because I can tell you that when people are making money, creating jobs, opening up businesses, doing well, that solves a lot of problems. And so I was pretty pleased. It took a lot of months to work towards that, but I think that is going to be the overriding sentiment that people have if we do end up going to a vote.
Okay,
Interesting.
I'm going to go to Keith first.
Well, I appreciate her optimism. And I mean, there has been some, I think the most positive aspects of the MOU are the commitment to not, for the federal government not to move forward with its unconstitutional emissions cap, which is a production cap. But it remains to be seen whether that gets followed through on. But the other is the commitment to not go ahead with the clean energy ridiculous requirements because they're extremist. And that was discouraging any power generators from investing the significant amount of money and time and regulatory compliance costs to build any power generation. And we've just had an announcement today that Capital Power here in Alberta is going to build some significant capacity to support some data centers. So there's some positive practical things flowing, but I see them as morsels to a starving person. And the reality is, I think the error that the Smith government made was they overplayed the MOU. They made it seem like Canada's fixed. But I do fundamentally, I still don't know where the premier's really at on all of this. I don't know whether she's actually a federalist and has aspirations outside of Alberta, or whether she's playing political 4D chess. I don't know. But what I do know is that in order for Albertans who still would like to remain in Canada, they're only going to make the decision to support independence if they're convinced that Canada is a failure, which means the premier has to, in my view, keep trying to make Canada work. And I think despite every effort that she makes and the intelligence and skill that she brings to it, and there's great intelligence and skill there to apply, it's going to fail. Because as I've mentioned before, the structure makes no sense. It makes sense for Ottawa and Quebec and Ontario to continue to exploit Alberta. And then we have all these other provinces that are so dependent on our equalization payments. And I don't know that I'd agree with Wyatt that it's the political parties and provinces that have convinced the people of things. I think it's the other way around. And in Quebec in particular, they have this cultural aversion where they do not want fossil fuels produced. They have, I don't know the number, but it's a massive amount of natural gas under the ground in their own province.
Yep.
And there's no natural gas wells, right? And that's been a decision of the people. And was it influenced by some political party historically that caused them to hold that view that they don't want fossil fuels? Maybe there's a history there I'm not aware of. But I think we are so culturally diverse that the idea that we can function as a cohesive country over such large landmass, over such great distances, with such fundamental differences, I think is a pipe dream.
Well, here's the thing, that I'd compare those who oppose pipelines and just oil and gas development in general to prohibitionists back in the 1910s. Is that, were they ever a majority? Not even close. They usually estimated that they were only about 17-20% of the population were actually wanting a full teetotal prohibition to alcohol in the United States, and we had that actually before the US. The thing is that if certain parties knew that that group of people would vote for them if they put forward certain policies, well, that's more than half of your coalition that you need to win the election. And the problem is, in places like British Columbia and Quebec, the parties with the best coalitions able to win rely on those voters. And so literally in Quebec right now, pipelines are more popular than Quebec separatism. And so what you have is that people who want to block pipelines are the easier group of people to work for in order to get into government. And also the separatists, ironically, overlap a lot with the I guess the oil and gas prohibitionists in Quebec. Same thing in British Columbia. The NDP rely on a lot of their votes coming from people who are frankly in, fabulously wealthy areas of Vancouver, who think that groceries come from the grocery store and that, food just appears on the shelf. And so the thing is that they have to kind of cater to a certain type of voter who's like that. And now I think that really what we need is just a new coalition that rejects those sorts of ideas. But regardless, going back to Danielle Smith, because I don't want to go too down the rabbit hole on that one, and that was my fault. But Danielle Smith, I think she is being performatively naive when it comes to Mark Carney and the
I hope you're
MOU.
right.
She's
Yep.
actually is kind of playing 4D chess, because if she hesitates even for a second and it puts out any amount of skepticism, the media and the liberals will see that's why the pipeline's not being built. Danielle Smith didn't believe in Tinkerbell enough, so she died. And so what she could now do, by having been so open, been so willing to accept that Mark Carney's serious, if a spring election happens or a summer election happens, and I think it's actually fairly likely we'll have a federal election in 2026, like the week before the election, she can pull the rug out from under Carney saying, he's a liar. He said he was going to make a pipeline. He's not making it. I can't work with this guy. And then just end it right there. And the thing is that Mark Carney's actually kind of built himself a little bit of a house of cards here on multiple issue fronts, where he's promised so much and he's just delivering absolutely nothing. Trade deal with the United States. He's going to bring us back to fiscal responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to build a pipeline. He's going to go away from the progressive radicalism of the Trudeau government, and literally down the list. It's all complete nonsense. And by Danielle Smith, she's almost baiting Carney into making the biggest mistake of his government so far.
She's lib-baiting them is what
Yeah.
she's doing. It's daring them to be duplicitous because she knows they will be. It's actually brilliant. That makes me look forward, really look forward to the next federal election, Wyatt. Thanks.
Yeah, I am the hyper optimist, and then Keith is probably the pragmatic pessimist here.
It's the balance that you need on every panel. I was in the room when, well, not in the room, but adjacent when they signed the MOU. And I'm telling you, and I hope you're right, Wyatt, that she is being naive, performatively naive, because I heard a very sincere, very loud yeehaw out of the premier when she signed that thing. And I was like, why is she so excited? I read this and I don't see what she's so excited about.
She giddy up them because maybe
She
she's
did.
onto something that we didn't know about. Yeah, they
Maybe,
made a big deal of that signing, just like Trump did with the executive orders. That's Carney's new thing, is like to sign a document and make it big and fancy. Look here, Sharpies and everything. Did I just see Sharpies?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, he's taken from the Trump playbook. That's what they're doing. Yeah.
Fair
made
enough.
a big deal of it. So, this is going to get interesting. I continue to believe in Danielle Smith being an absolute weapon, and she's just gaming him.
You know what? I've got all kinds of time to cut her all kinds of slack, and I hope that Wyatt is right. Let's hit an ad break, but before we do, let's say goodbye to Mr. Keith Wilson and thank him for his time on the show today. I know he's got other things to do, like sue the government and stuff like that. So
yeah, all the best, Keith. Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Thanks
Keith.
everyone. Good to see you, Wyatt.
Yes. Let's hit an ad break.
Bye
We'll
now.
come back on the other side.
You like the hat? Me too. Same
Hail
strong
Keto, guys.
message about making Canada great again, but in a really cool color, black and gold. There's other colors available, and it's an all Canadian site. So if you want to signal your tribe or trigger a liberal, go to mcgahats.ca today.
Gun bans make great distractions.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same
We
rhetoric.
will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us. Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
Hey everybody, I'm Lise, Merle, and I want to tell you about a darling little book I wrote for these crazy times, where truth and reality are now optional. On a wide open prairie farm lives Buck, a loyal and gentle horse who's good at just about everything. But one day his well-meaning barnyard buddies start filling his head with big ideas, like maybe he isn't a horse at all. Maybe he's a rainbow unicorn. Buck tries to keep up, but something doesn't sit right, and eventually he remembers the one place where truth isn't confusing and love isn't conditional. Home. Because Buck's family knows him best. They know he's not a unicorn. He's a wonderful horse. Strong, steady, and perfect the way he is. And that love gives him the courage to ignore the noise and just be himself. Buck the Rainbow Unicorn is a prairie fable for our times. A gentle and charming story that helps little ones understand that who they are is enough, and that the people that love them most aren't the ones trying to turn them into something they're not. Share this story with the little ones in your life just in time for Christmas. It's a book to spark discussions and remind them that home is where the truth lives and that they are loved just the way they are. Get your copy today at bucktherainbowunicorn.ca.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
Okay, before we talk about Buck and where Buck is on the Amazon charts right now, I've got a quick little message from our friends at the Wellness Company. What if those who were once called conspiracy theorists turn out to be right again? A new study by Korean doctors claiming that COVID vaccines raise the risks of 6 cancers, including lung, breast, and prostate. Researchers analyzed health records from more than 8.4 million adults between 2021 and 2023, and their findings were published in Biomarker Research, a respected scientific journal. Critics dismissed it, but the data raises concerns that spike protein exposure may be tied to long-term health risks. Dr. Peter McCullough has been aware of this since 2020, which is why he collaborated with the Wellness Company to create Ultimate Spike Detox, designed to help your body clear spike proteins, reduce inflammation, and support heart health. With natural ingredients like nattokinase, dandelion root, and bromelain, it is your daily proactive defense from a man-made virus. Don't wait until symptoms strike or something unexpected happens. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. McCullough, one of the top doctors who risked it all. Head to twc.health/rebel and use code REBEL to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, that's twc.health/rebel and use code REBEL to get 10% off and get back to that pre-COVID feeling. Okay. Before we get into Alberta using the nuclear notwithstanding clause for the 4th time in a little bit, and I hope we use it more. We should be invoking it like Quebec does for like street signs and labeling and like everything.
Normalize the notwithstanding clause. You got a new power plant that you're building, but slap a notwithstanding clause on it.
Whatever, who cares?
Just like that. Yep.
You know, it has a sunset clause. We'll get into that in a bit, but I want you to update us about where Buck is. Please, acclaimed LGBTQ plus children's author Lise Merle, tell us where Buck is on the charts today, because it was the #1 LGBTQ plus children's book. I can't believe such a category exists.
Yes,
and I think it still remains there, but it's in another category now.
It is the #2 book in books about horses. Okay, you guys, it is number 210 in all books. Okay, that is incredible in itself. And our goal here, guys, is to keep climbing those charts, because you guys are gonna love this so much. Buck the Rainbow Unicorn, published by Rebel News, just overtook the book that Mark Critch from This Hour has 22 minutes in the CBC on the Amazon hot new releases charts. So this morning, Buck the Rainbow Unicorn, look at this. My book is beating the book from the guy from the CBC.
And his is such an elbows up book. Like it's the elbows up book.
Yeah.
So I love this.
So in any case, guys, this is absolutely incredible. Your response to this is just making my life. I'm living on love right now. And speaking about love, we're getting some hate. There are people that are buying my book to hate it. No, Sheila, to hate it online. Oh yeah, they're doing that to hate it online. So special just for those haters. For only $5,000, I will sell you a whole box of Bucks to burn. Okay, we will make it special. We'll gift wrap it. We'll even send you the matches, because if you want to hate on this little book, feel free. But I know our people are going to love on this little book harder than you can ever hate. So guys, help me climb those charts. We're at 11 right now. We want to be at 10 within, I don't know what, like by the end of the weekend, top 10. Okay, that's what we're going to try and do. Go to bucktherainbowunicorn.com to get yours. You can leave them in little free libraries. You can buy them for your school divisions. You can send them to teachers. every little person in your life needs this book for Christmas. And you guys are just helping us pull off a miracle. And I just couldn't be more thankful.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey everybody, it's Lise Merle from Rebel News with a rather incredible announcement. I just learned that my children's book, Buck the Rainbow Unicorn, just leaped over the book of Mark Critch from This Hour Has 22 Minutes in the CBC's book. He is at number 12. I am at number 11. Let's go, Buck. Let's go, Buck. Visit Buck the Rainbow Unicorn to get your copy right now.
You know what? In Alberta. Sorry, go ahead.
Is Mark Critch, and why should I care about Mark Critch?
There is that too. I mean, he is a creation of the CBC. He does have, I think, a Netflix show, doesn't he? I thought he did.
Like he's had every advantage with his book, and my little book just with his little hooves just trampled over Mark Critch's book. And I know our viewers are going to love this. And here goes Rebel News beating CBC again. And
if Mark Critch has a Netflix show, that's called the CBC bribed Netflix to let Mark Critch have a Netflix show.
Sure.
Like
For
literally,
sure, exactly that.
That's how that one terrible sitcom or whatever, North of North, was made. It was just the CBC bribing Netflix, and then they get a bunch of ESG money because it's like an indigenous show or whatever.
That's right. Yes.
At some point, I need to do an entire review of North of North. I watched like 4 episodes and I gave up. It was just so dull. It's like watching a bunch of Torontonians pretend that they live in a rural area. None of it.
Okay, well, Wyatt, my book, like the actual story portion of this book, is only 10 pages. And I know that it's for 4 to say 16-year-olds. But you
16-year-olds, because our friend bought one for her 16-year-olds. She's in high school.
If you children of all ages need this book, and they are getting them. So Wyatt, I know that you're significantly younger than me, but I can guarantee that you would be able to polish this book off like in less than an afternoon. Okay, it is just a pleasant afternoon of reading. BuckTheRainbowUnicorn.com, guys. Okay,
well, I endorse it.
Thank you, Wyatt. I'll send you one. So anyway, Buck the Rainbow Unicorn, just absolutely flying, and thanks so much, you guys. Just I'm gonna look forward to a lot of Buck the Rainbow Unicorn updates, because they are coming fast and furious.
Daily,
just incredible.
Daily, I get a series of overly emotional videos from Lise on Facebook Messenger. It's constant. I don't disabuse myself of it. I actually enjoy it. I like seeing my best friend achieve her dreams.
Listen, I'm sending a lot of videos that start out like this, me dabbing my eyes and just but it's just an incredible week, an incredible time for a little book named Buck. So
let's get into one of the reasons for Buck's creation, or one of the reasons it's launching now, and that is the overt sexualization of little kids in the school system at the hands of sex activist teachers. Last night, Alberta's United Conservatives stayed up into the pre-dawn hours of Wednesday morning to pass a bill that marks the 4th time in under 2 months they've used the Charter's notwithstanding clause. And this was at 2:30 in the morning, 2:20 in the morning, I guess.
Amazing.
And it was a bill to confirm the government's intention to use the notwithstanding clause to shield from legal challenge each of 3 current laws affecting transgender people. Actually, I believe it affects parents and little kids.
Oh, families, yes.
And lady athletes. So they say it'll police pronouns in schools. No, you can't socially transition other people's kids in schools. Ban transgender girls from participating in amateur female sports. No, you get to
because those are boys. And Sheila, I was having a conversation with an elite coach the other day who was like, well, if it's not Olympics, who cares? We have to care, because girls that have to compete against boys are having their scholarships stolen.
Right,
They're having their opportunities stolen. So no, anywhere that this exists has to go. And what Danielle Smith and the UCP is doing is the most brave and most brilliant thing that I've seen any government do in Canada in the last 1 calendar year. Drop that notwithstanding clause, UCP. Keep going.
Yeah.
Well, how does a female athlete as well even demonstrate that they're good enough to make like a team on a
Exactly.
university or even professional
Yes.
when you're on the court with somebody in basketball or you're competing in some other like competitive sport, like maybe I guess in swimming, they could say, well, your times are still good. But still, it's going to reduce your motivation to try when someone can run circles around you. And it's like, and the thing is, it's like, well, obviously you're not going to let F1 cars compete in the exact same race as NASCAR cars. They're built differently. They race at different speeds. They are meant for different courses. I don't think this needs to be explained to anyone. I talked to an NDP Green voter in Victoria, and she said, because this got brought up in a conversation between a couple of people, we did not know this person. But they are very hardcore NDP. Their parents work for the government. They thought, yes, like, quietly, they're like, yeah, I actually kind of support restricting males from female sports. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, you can't, for some reason, you can't say it, but it's just common sense.
Yeah, it is just common sense. And the world the world needs a lot more of it.
And it's not just, and the last part of the bill there was keeping the gender mangalas away from the minors, like kids under 16. You can't, 16 and under, you can't cut into them to address their psychological issues. But it's more than just not qualifying for a scholarship. It starts way before that. If you, for example, like I have in my home, a national elite level female athlete, that process to get to your scholarship starts like when you're 12.
Sure.
And it starts by them seeing your little happy little pigtailed face on all the rep teams. When you're playing for your city team because you've been chosen from the league, when you're playing for your provincial team because then you've been selected from the league team, and then you get into Canada West. All those opportunities, if they are offered to a boy, there's a girl that doesn't get them.
Yes.
And you don't, if you're not playing at that level because a boy took your spot, you don't get the scholarship. That's just how it works. And every time I see a boy playing on a girl's team, I see an opportunity stolen from a girl.
Absolutely, because that's what's happening. That's what's happening. So these laws are not only necessary in this moment, but also they need to be contagious. Every province across the country of Canada should be applying laws to protect girls in their intimate spaces, to protect children from sadistic, Mengele-like surgeons, and to protect families from this chaos that it causes. Every provincial government should be following Danielle Smith's lead on this. Drop the notwithstanding clause, Danny. Do it.
The part of the story I've loved the most is all the whining. I think, oh my goodness, this is anti-democratic. Oh, you can't do this. This is against democracy. I'm like, these are like pretty standard laws. You only need the notwithstanding clause because we do not have rational judges anymore who understand how the charter works. It's effectively, if they disagree with it, they just on a personal level don't like it, then it must somehow violate the charter in some way. Protecting minors from invasive medical procedures and like body altering drugs. For some reason, that's in the charter. John A. Macdonald was very clear when he wrote the charter. I want kids to have Lupron.
Yeah. Right? Like, it's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. And that's right. Our judicial system has been captivated.
Hijacked?
Yes, captivated by liberal supporters and liberal donors. And this is what we get. This is what we get.
Conservatives need to rip the Band-Aid off. I know it feels very American to care about the courts, but we need to actually prioritize charter first court appointments. You read the charter. Is it in the charter? If it is not, that's not a violation of the charter. That is very simple. I know people are, oh my goodness, this is like Trump appointing judges to the Supreme Court. He's not wrong to, and we're not wrong to either.
In the new country.
Elected judges. Elected judges is what we're going to have. Elected judges, elected bureaucrats, elected law enforcement.
We're going to elect our sheriffs, everything.
Ooh, I can't wait.
We only have time for two more things. We're trying to be quick because we've dug up something from the Parliamentary Press Gallery. Mark Carney, I think, taking a sideways swipe at us here at Rebel News, but that's okay. let's go to this clip from our friends at the CCFR, who I interviewed Tracy this morning for my paywalled show from Charlottetown, because they were able to have an entire city council back down from participating in the Trudeau gun grab, which is now the Carney gun grab in Charlottetown PEI. The councillors voted against it 10-0, which was great. But we have somebody joining the alliance of premiers against the gun grab, and it's Curry Dixon, who I know has been a good friend to firearms owners for years and years, the new premier of Yukon. We got a clip there from their speech from the throne, which is very exciting because they subsistence hunt up there.
Yukoners deserve safe communities where their families can thrive and their businesses can prosper. And that is why policing resources should be focused on crime rather than confiscating people's lawfully acquired property. Hunting and shooting are foundational to Yukoners' way of life, particularly to First Nations exercising their constitutional rights. Unlike criminals, the territory's gun owners are thoroughly vetted, law-abiding citizens. And that is why the government will take action to support the rights of legal gun owners in this territory. And we will advise the Government of Canada that Yukon government will not participate in Ottawa's firearms buyback program.
Nice. Now, they're going to have to flesh out what that piece of legislation looks like. Are they going to do what Saskatchewan's doing by saying, okay, well, maybe you could grab the guns here, but we have a licensing program for companies that want to participate in the gun grab, and we haven't funded that thing.
Right. There's no employees available
It
to
doesn't
do that job.
sorry,
Right? You're busy doing other things.
There's no one at the call center. And then Alberta is doing its best to insulate firearms owners and people who use self-defense in their own homes here. So this is great news. They joined the block of premiers, but they've got to put some meat on the bones of the policy there. Any of you jump in?
I was going to say, at the very least, non-compliance with the federal government would be enough to honestly ward them off, because already the Cape Breton buyback program has been a giant lead balloon, not really, obviously being more trouble than it's really worth, with people not really participating and all that. And so having just more and more provinces join, even if it's the Yukon and it's a territory, I think that it'll eventually signal to Mark Carney and the Liberals that this is not worth the political capital you're putting into it. That's another thing I didn't even list before. The gun buyback is just has not been popular. If you poll people on, oh, hey, do you believe in gun control? Yeah, you'll get people to say yes. At the same time, do people actually think that Gary Amasangari is doing a good job on this at all? No.
Well, and that is the truth. And that was the thing I think the CCFR did really well with this Charlottetown vote, because that's how they're doing this. They're trying to pick off the municipalities because some of the provinces aren't participating. Now, that could not happen in Alberta because our municipalities are not allowed to make deals with the feds, because the province will just come along and dissolve you. They tried to do that with housing dollars, and the province stepped in. So they're sort of not that. We sort of are insulated from that here, but in other parts of the country, like Charlottetown, and then there was Cape Breton, as you rightly pointed out. Cape Breton, 22 guns were turned in at a cost of $7,000 a piece. Like, it was crazy. And then so Charlottetown, they had only heard from the Liberals, so they were going to adopt this. Then CCFR descends on the town. They bring in the gun clubs, they bring in the firearms retailers, and they start telling the other side of the story. And pretty quick, city council's like, this is a terrible idea.
Never mind.
Yeah. Never mind. This is awful. And the problem is now Winnipeg has already been given, I think, $2 million to participate in the gun grab, I think next year, 2026. Does anybody think that's actually going to make Winnipeg any safer? Like, the gangsters are like, it's just
it'll make Winnipeg more conservative. The thing is that every time you roll these out, they might as well just be like paid for by the Conservative Party of Canada, because it's a great advertising scheme to have the RCMP show up in a city and start trying to pressure people into selling their guns back to the government, you're going to get a lot of people become single-issue gun voters.
Well, and we know that I think this is the single largest fundraising issue for the Conservative Party of Canada, which means
Is
that
it?
people are
Interesting.
highly motivated to not lose access to tens of thousands of pieces of their property that they lawfully acquired.
And it's a great investment to give a little bit of money to whoever will protect you on this issue, because again, the actual chart for how much money they will give you back for different models is nowhere close to their actual value.
150
So even
bucks,
just throwing a couple $100 at somebody who will protect your firearms locally, some local guy who's going to stand up to the government, hey, $200 is way more than losing tens of thousands of dollars in lost money and not having access to guns anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to get back to the Saskatchewan thing. Saskatchewan is actually saying that they will store your firearms for you so that you are not in possession of them if the feds come knocking on your door and charge you for being in possession of a prohibited weapon, which is like a life. I don't like the idea. Look, I don't like the idea.
I don't like it
giving
either.
my guns to the government, but I believe that this is in the interest of benevolence, which I almost rarely attribute to any government. But this
It's
does
the nuclear option when there's nothing else there left.
You know what?
Doing their
And
best
that
to insulate them from criminality.
And that could be it. The government of Saskatchewan is just saying, look, we just have to have an out for our people if the federal government comes knocking at their door.
Well,
on the other hand, I just can't. On the libertarian in me is like, absolutely not. Like in no capacity.
Do you give your guns to the government?
You don't give your guns to the government, and you don't give your kids to the government, right, Canada?
Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time,
this
is Scott Moe, who is like, come take me to jail over the carbon tax.
That's true.
So you got to do, like, at least they're trying to protect the residents from the criminality that would result not just in jail time, but a lifetime prohibition on firearms ownership.
Yeah.
Saskatchewan's one of those provinces too. I don't even think the NDP would be fully aligned with backing the gun confiscation. It's just one of those provinces. What are you? If you're going to be one of the two MLAs in the north part of the province, are you just going to be like, you don't need guns up here where there's like wolves?
Well, that's the thing. I know the NFA has leaned real hard on Buckley Blanchet, who is the Liberal MP up there. I know they were like, hi, you're from the north, are ya? Let's talk about firearms rights. So that's good. Yeah. I was going to talk about the EU censorship, but I think we've run out of time. Let's go. We've got two chats, and then we'll go to the Daily Cringe. So we've got Silver Feet 1280. Gives us $5 and says, Lise, I can't stop laughing about Buck the Rainbow Unicorn. Too amazing. Remember, everyone, I think this means give Buck the Rainbow Unicorn to who you are. Anyways, Wyatt, tell Dallas we in BC love her forever.
Oh, she absolutely knows that she has about 100 emails every single day she has to go through.
Oh, that's
telling
great.
her the same thing.
That's great to hear. Awesome.
I'm glad.
The documentary is up to 258,000 views right now.
I cannot believe how well it's doing, Wyatt. And
is that just on YouTube? Because I saw it was doing exceptionally well on X.
It is. I always base metrics more off YouTube than X, because the problem with X is if you scroll by the post at 1 million miles an hour, technically counts as a view, whereas YouTube, as you guys would know, as being professional YouTubers like myself, like when you
have to get into
analytics on YouTube, people watch a video. If it's like a 15-minute video, the average view might be like 7 minutes long. Because once you click on a video on YouTube, you're kind of committed for a little bit.
You're in it to win it. Yeah. No, but like what Dallas Brody just did with that documentary, just taking John Rustad out at the knees. Absolutely brilliant. Like, she's taken up all the air in British Columbia, all of it. Nobody gets a word edgewise because everybody's listening to what Dallas Brody is saying.
The BC Conservatives are going to have a hard time in their leadership race because people are still just going to be like, well, that's great, but Dallas Brody's doing this. So are you guys going to do that? Or what's the point of me even voting for the Conservatives if you guys can't even get to half of what she's doing? And the thing too is it's crossing over. I know very, very, very mainstream, if anything, cautious conservative figures on a federal level who have endorsed the documentary now. This is not people. I don't want to name people and be like, that person's soft or something like that. But, people who generally are going to be more risk averse, they tend to be more party line for the Conservative Party federally, and they're not going to go off into the weeds on something where they're going to be like, don't endorse that. It's a little bit controversial. No, they're fully on board because you watch it and you're like, every question in your mind about, well, what about that the activists sometimes bring up? Are they right about that? It just bowls it all over. No, they're not. They're just making things up pretty much.
Wyatt, the same thing is happening with Buck the Rainbow Unicorn. People that I didn't expect to be supporting it are like, this is excellent. It is excellent. So like, same. And that's what you have to, when you're blazing the trail, you have to, you got to step out of bounds every now and again. And
eventually you'll have to make the Buck the Rainbow Unicorn documentary.
Buddy, my DMs right now, I'm just going to publish them all in the end.
You have to have a trailer of you riding on a horse with its mane made rainbow colors, just riding into the frame of the camera.
I love this for me. Like, I love this for me. All of my life dreams are coming true. Wyatt, we're making it happen. Okay, buddy? We're just making it happen.
All right, so let's keep going. We've got, it's Paul Newman, 279. He says, Brad Wall for the first president of Athabasca.
Oh, buddy.
I'm listening. I'm listening. He's been great lately.
He's such a gem. He continues to be Saskatchewan's treasure and just Saskatchewan's boy. And I think that the people of Athabasca would co-sign on this. Brad Wall is the best. He's the best.
Okay, we've got BD54 says, gives us $13.99, says, congratulations, Lise. I ordered Buck and I can hardly wait to read it to my granddaughters. I love the message. Merry Christmas to all the rebels. God bless you all.
Oh, honey, thanks so much. I'm delighted for your little
Mary. Get your act together.
But didn't she realize she could have taken that money and bought another copy?
Right.
That's the problem today.
It's okay.
Everyone's like, do I super chat Lise or do I buy another copy?
You can send a copy to your local public school. You can put a copy in a little free library. Actually, that's part of our dream, me and Sheila Gunn Reid's, is to drop off copies of Buck across the nation on our epic toodles.
On our toodles.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for buying the book, and Merry Christmas to you.
Okay, Wild Freedom 7 gives us $5 and says, proud to know you, Lise. Also, nice, smart young man. That's you, Wyatt Claypool. And,
no, that's Keith. That was Keith.
I don't know.
I'm 26 going on 87. I'm old.
Are you? Hey, Wyatt, I identify as 83.
Oh, great.
We're trans
I'm
aged.
your senior, actually. You should have said 88.
My son is also a very old man in a young man's body with very old man habits. Like, he loves to hit the golf. Like, he's one of those guys who goes on golf holidays. And I'm like, you're mid-20s, buddy. But he's a golf holiday guy.
Dude, every hockey bro is secretly a 55-year-old man just waiting.
100% in training. Yeah. They just got to start watching like World War II documentaries. That's what gets them over the line.
Did you know that General Patton said this? Sir William Tecumseh Sherman went down to Georgia and burned down Atlanta.
Yeah, I know. My boy,
it's the trajectory. Yes.
He's working his way into project management, right? So he's like, deals are made on the golf course. So I got to get good at golf. And so that is his excuse for playing too much golf all the time and going on golf holidays. Like, he's a retiree for some reason. But it's better than going to the bars, I guess. We've got, let's hit the daily cringe and then let's wrap it up because I'm already late for what I needed to do. No, that's okay. I could be look. What I need to do is not pleasant, so I'd rather be doing this.
Oh, okay.
Not that it's bad. It just, this is better. We've got Carney at the PPG making a comment about us. I missed this because nobody cares about the PPG except the PPG.
Saw the mashed potato.
I only saw the mashed potatoes, and that's because I thought Michelle was funny. And I saw the Polyev thing because he was roasting the media right to their faces. So I don't know.
I still haven't watched it. I heard Don Davies was actually funny.
I think he was a little bit.
I still have to go watch that. I was just too busy.
Yeah, same. I was doing real stuff. But
do we have to watch the PPG stuff? I don't think we do. Wyatt, I just really.
We're gonna watch this.
Yeah.
Okay, deal. Lise, you're on contract.
Olivia, hit it.
Members of the Executive Committee, thank you. Seriously, thank you for this invitation to join the esteemed members of the press gallery this evening. Let us take a moment actually to comment on what we just witnessed. not that guy. What we witnessed was shared bylines. This is the press gallery standing up for liberal racism in this country. Well done. Well done. I have a different word for it. We used to call it solidarity. Used to be what we were about, liberal racism. That's okay. It's all right. As long as it gets the job done. It is a pleasure to be with journalists who empower Canadians with the truth and relentlessly protect our democratic institutions. But enough about rebel news. Hey, they got all the questions for the debate. C'est au centre. I don't know. Anyways.
Sounds like sour grapes to me, buddies.
Do you know, I love that they clapped because there's truth in every joke, right? And we did outwork them. And that makes me very happy because they are lazy and entitled and they won't let us join their stupid little club on Parliament Hill. And so they can make fun of us behind our backs. But you know what we still do? We still outwork you.
I loved the complaining about you guys getting like in front to get questions, and also other independent media also got questions too. You know, Alex Zoltan, Kean Bexty. The thing is, it was ridiculous when like they're complaining about. I'm like, guys, go to the United States, go to the UK. Do you think that everyone sits down politely and says, okay, CBC will get a question, and CTV News will get a question, then the Globe and Mail will get a question?
Right?
No, everyone sprints up to be able to get as many questions as possible. These people live in a bubble where they actually think that people efforting and trying and, you know, not always seeming like they're on a full-time vacation and being professionally impressed with themselves all the time. You know, in other countries, people actually have to try hard to do their jobs. It's mind-boggling that these people actually think that they're being like oppressed by another news outlet being able to actually use their legs and walk up to go ask a question.
They couldn't even stand up to yell at us. They still sat down when they were yelling at us. I'm like, God, you guys are low effort. Just so low effort.
And then they get together for their black tie event in a fancy ballroom, you guys. This is a fancy ballroom in all of their sequins and tuxedos to pat each other on the backs and tell each other what a good job they did this year. It's actually embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Not to freak out the Canadian legacy media, but they realize that they are in fact copying an American tradition.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, let's wrap up the show because as I said, I'm late for the thing that I need to do. Wyatt, tell everybody where they can find you.
They can just look up my YouTube channel, the National Telegraph. I do 1 or 2 videos every single day on whatever the political happenings are, including on this whiteboard behind me. I do a lot of polling stuff and showing where the parties are at. I like doing a lot of horse race politics. And of course, I do a lot of regional coverage, not only of British Columbia, where I often work, but where I live in Alberta and even other provinces like Ontario and New Brunswick. Cool. I even covered the entire Calgary mayoral race in like fine granulated detail.
He's a political operator.
You're a political operator.
He's just he's the best.
I think I have some bad news for everybody tomorrow. Olivia, correct me if I'm wrong. Is there no show tomorrow because we're all in transit? Is that how it's working? We're not sure yet. So if there is no show tomorrow, that's why most of us are in transit to Toronto, myself included, Lise also. So we're headed to Toronto for meetings, let's just say. Meetings. And so if there's a show tomorrow, fantastic. I bet it's David Menzies. If there isn't a show tomorrow, I'm very sorry. But we will have one again on Friday. Let's wrap up the show. Lise, I'm anxiously awaiting the next update of Buck the Magic Unicorn. Buck the Rainbow Unicorn.
Oh, Buck the Rainbow Unicorn.
Because there's no magic, yes.
Well, it's happening in the background, but on the cover, the one that you're going to search for, you guys, okay, and buy
Rainbow,
and even Rainbow Buck the Rainbow Unicorn. Say the word family in your Amazon reviews, okay, guys, because those are the next charts that we want to conquer.
All right, let's sign off. Thanks so much for coming on the show with me today, guys. Special thanks to Keith Wilson, who was with us for the first part. Olivia, thanks for bringing everything up when we needed it, and as we frequently say over here at the show, if you find us offensive, maybe don't find us at all.
Who is your favorite Rebel News reporter? We're having our annual Rebby Awards 2025 edition, and the most exciting category is Viewer's Choice. You get to vote. Who's the best Rebel? Now, I find that an impossible question to answer, like asking which of your own children you love the most, but it is a fun way for our viewers to show our journalists how much they appreciate their work. From our coverage of Mark Carney's election, to the anti-Semitic crime wave across Canada, to the ostrich battle, to fighting for free speech, our journalism has never been more important, and our team of reporters has never been more courageous. Go to www.viewerschoiceawards.ca. Each Rebel News viewer gets just one vote, so cast it wisely. Vote now. We will announce the results on Friday, December 12th. Now, I know it's hard to choose your favorite Rebel. They're all great, but it's in the spirit of friendly competition, and I genuinely want to know what our viewers think. The CBC would never let the public rank their reporters. Go to www.viewerschoiceawards.ca. Vote now, and good luck.